very nice that I heard from my mom.
Yes.
We were also chatting about reading and books and so on. And she says there's something so beautiful about the ability. You can have a family of 4 children, say for example. They can all be different ages. And you can read a classic book, you know. And each child will form a picture in their mind of what that means for them, which is age appropriate.
Of course.
When you turn on the television, you get given somebody else's interpretation.
You don't have to think for yourself.
You don't have to think, and it might not be appropriate for that specific age.
Yes.
But the beauty of reading to your kids, doesn't matter what age, one could be 2, one could be 6, whatever, they will take from there what they mentally read, because they're making the picture themselves. It's not being fed to them.
There are some phenomenal programs on TV about the world that children can enjoy, but it shouldn't be the primary way of you reading and learning and everything else. So it's the same, you know, how much screen time is appropriate for kids.
That's right, how much screen time is appropriate. Just coming back to your hands-on course and this manual, it's so exciting that even if a teacher, because I get that a lot, teachers come, what do we do? And we don't have much time. You're saying we can do these little things in the class. It doesn't have to be unbelievably complicated. It's not going to change everything. It's going to actually make your life easier. Am I understanding you correctly?
You're understanding me correctly. And that's the most important thing. We don't, the classes are big, and not some children are in the class and they have issues, so learning issues and are not getting help or whatever. The use of these small movements, even in a small space, is just going to help them, even if it's just for the short period of time that they are in the classroom and doing a specific activity. So yes, it doesn't have to be time consuming. You do not have to put lots of time away to do your movements and your brain gym. And the beauty of that also is to say, once you've done a few exercises or movements with the children, is to say, what movement would you like to do and why? Do you feel like that's the movement for you?
It made a difference.
Yes. So we give children the opportunity also of experiencing the movements, and there's so many variations. Give kids a movement, and for 6 weeks, very excited, and they'll ask you, when are we doing brain gym again? But if you do that again for the next 6 weeks, very bored. So we need to mix it up for them and make it interesting for them, and that's where all these fantastic variations come in.
So do you cover all these little tips in your training?
Yes, very much so. All of these, the whole idea of hands-on was to take the 26 movements of brain gym and some vision gym movements. It's another aspect of working with movement, and using them to enhance reading readiness, writing, handwriting, reading, spelling, and math. So we use them in different ways, because in writing there are skills such as eye-hand coordination, spatial orientation, visual skills, finger strength and dexterity, shoulder girdle stability and neck relaxation, and postural control. So we use the movements in different ways to develop those particular skills. In reading, we need to develop auditory skills, really, before we develop the visual skills.
My goodness.
So in doing so...
So we're developing the ear first before we can...
We need to do that. And in doing so, our movements then will be adapted to have sound for the auditory component, and that won't be the case for the visual skills as much. So we use the eyes, obviously. So everything's adaptable, and the simplicity is what makes me passionate about this work, and passionate to share it with people. And I hope that when I'm long gone, it will be a mainstream part of learning and schools.
Let's trust for that.
Yes.
Now, another thing I want to say, if you can just tell us, with your mom, maybe your homeschooling mom, or your moms that are maybe their teachers are not going to get your training, but can the moms and the homeschooling moms also come to training with you, or is it only for teachers?
No. Homeschooling moms are teachers. They're de facto teachers. Homeschooling moms would benefit brilliantly from this. And the whole idea is not to take a whole manual and say, oh, there's so much in this manual to do. Honestly, when I first started learning brain gym, I didn't know what I was doing. I would sit with a book in hand and I would do a movement and there we go. And 6 weeks later, that kid was doing much, much better. So the brilliant thing about all of this, you don't have to be perfect as a teacher. And if a kid has specific learning challenges, physical or whatever, they're not going to be able to do the movements as well as the child who doesn't have learning problems, learning issues. But the effect on the brain is absolutely amazing. So perfection out the window. We get involved with the movements, we do the movements, and the changes are amazing. I'm going to tell you a little anecdote. I have very, very good brain gym friends in America, and two of them specifically, an occupational therapist and a physiotherapist, work with a school population of kids who are in wheelchairs.
My goodness.
So we know there's a movement, it's like the Infinity 8, which we in brain gym call the lazy 8. Mm-hmm. And they drew this huge 8, sideways 8, on the ground in the therapy room.
Oh,
at the school,
yeah, okay.
yes. And the assistants, teaching assistants who helped the occupational therapist and the physical therapist were told just to walk the kids around this 8 every day. And
Nothing else.
Nothing else. And it was reported to them a few weeks later, the children's communication was better, the children's understanding was better.
That's incredible.
Absolutely profound. So there is the first step of how we get it into our bodies. So we have many, many ways of helping all sorts of educators, whether they are teachers, teachers' assistants, involved parents, and homeschooling parents. I wish more homeschooling parents came to my workshops. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they would benefit greatly.
Yes, absolutely. Because we need as much as possible as parents these days.
Yes.
And if you say that these things do not have to be complicated,
Yes.
that is a relief. Because so many things are so complicated.
So it's so interesting because every day I'm working with kids. Now I'm doing the movements with the kids. And so I have a really good day because I'm involved in the movements as well. So to encourage parents and educators to do the movements themselves with the kids, it's beneficial to them.
Both.
To both.
My goodness, that's wonderful. Now, do you have any success story? I'm sure you have many, but is there something that stands out to you or somebody that you can recall now that you'd like to share?
I'm probably going to recall the one that I've just, had a success story with. There are so many over 30 years. You can imagine how many there are.
Yes.
The greatest success for me is when a child learns to read. That is just very precious and wonderful. And there have been very many. I'll give you it's in my mind because it's so current. Well, first of all, last year had an actuarial science student who had passed school with A's all the way through from working super hard. And his posture was up here in his shoulders and he wore this very worried expression because he wasn't doing so well in actuarial science in the first year. And immediately I could see in this young man there was deep fear.
Okay.
So from a physical point of view, we got new prescription, we did some vision therapy, that's on a physical point of view. I did educational kinesiology with him to relax all those fear reflexes that were wildly active.
Sure.
And lots of brain gym. And he passed the year beautifully. He's in second year. He's told me he's coming back to do lots more reading before he goes back to university. So I'm just thrilled and delighted with him. Then let's take you back to a little lady. She was 4 when she came to see me with her mum. She was clinging onto mum's arm in bed at night. Wouldn't let go.
Stress.
Just wouldn't let mum go. And she told mum she needs the arm. So we worked on mom and little girl together to release the fear.
Right.
And did little brain gym movements and played with her, all with the intention of helping her separate from mum. Because mum was hoping to have another baby. And we got her into her own bedroom and into her bunk. And also to be happy to go to school, which everything worked nicely. Yes, so that was a whole series of little sessions with mum and daughter, and got her to sleep through the night. Did some techniques to help her sleep through the night. So that was a lovely one. It had nothing to do with reading. The child's IQ is up there, and the EQ, or emotional intelligence, was much lower. So we had to try and balance to strengthen that. Yes. So then we have the 6.5-year-old, almost 7, who has lots of labels. You know those labels: dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, so many disses. And
that's so hard.
I had one session with her to clear the fear reflex, because she's so scared of my dog. She's so scared of dogs and cats. And she's doing this when she sees them. So we cleared the first fear reflex out of her system. And I wasn't expecting anything hugely different in the next session. But Mom said, Isabel, I just have to tell you that my child, I almost mentioned her name, and it's very unusual, that my child is rollerblading now with so much more balance than before. So we often have wonderful results from doing the processes we do that have nothing to do with reading and writing. But believe me, if that system is in balance, it means that is going to be so much easier. If both sides of the body are in better balance, we're already getting ready to be able to work on a page from left to right, up and down. And so that is a fantastic outcome that you don't expect.
Yeah.
So we ask parents to notice, and they say, what am I looking for? What am I looking for? Anything. Often it's swimming. Suddenly they're able to use both sides of their body when they're swimming. It's just wonderful, the things that happen, that are just, weren't in the goal, weren't in the intention, but there they happen. That's perfect, yes.
And do you find that with some children it takes a little bit longer? Do we look at a child individually, or?
I think that's a very good point. We must look at children as individuals. Absolutely. Children must do it in their own pace. We have this need to get children crossing the midline. Okay?
We do.
The child's got to cross that midline. And really, we have to take a step back and say, but the child's got two sides of their body. First, let's make sure they understand that they have a left side, and they understand that they have a right side, and they're clear about those sides of their body. Yes. Absolutely, and are aware, and then we can cross the midline. So these are things that I'm happy to share with teachers who don't understand those developmental phases. The developmental phases before we get to the crossing of the midline.
Okay, so Isabel, where do we go from here with the technology that we have to deal with? Because children are going to have to get used to technology, because if they can't send an email or whatever, how do you see us going forward and still developing our kids?
So the swing was technology, let go of handwriting. We don't need handwriting in the schools anymore. We've got technology. So when I was doing a presentation and happened to be at a conference in the United States, I did some research, and a lot of the research was, Why do I want my child to write anymore? They don't need it any longer. That was a good few years ago. Now, when you look at the literature about what's happening with technology, many of the schools are going back to teaching writing because they are seeing the results of too much technology. So I think with everything, the pendulum will swing one way, and then as people see the results, I believe it will come back to the middle. And that balance that we need between technology and between using our hand to develop language skills. That's my belief.
Very
Creativity will die. And as people see it happening and see the language getting poorer and poorer, I believe that the balance will be will happen.
Restored, yeah.
Yes, it will be
because
restored.
we need, we still need to make our lives richer. We still need art. People need to still be able to express themselves.
Art and music.
Music, like you said earlier,
Yes,
with
and
playing and dance. And hands are vital with that kind of expression.
Yes.
And if we can't use our hands properly, and if they're not fully developed,
Yes.
and what's the first thing we do? We paint.
So
isn't it amazing? Children,
yes,
they can start painting it too.
Exactly. It was such a good point there. So if you might be asked by parents, what do I do? What do I do? They're not writing as much. Then say, use putty, build, do fine motor movements, find all the activities that you can to use those little hands in good ways.
Yes, and there's so much Play-Doh, like you say.
Yes,
and
yes. We
wonderful
need
stuff.
to develop this movement. This is the ideal movement where the thumb and the fingers are moving this way. Together, yes. So sometimes a grip might be very unusual.
And why is the grip like that?
There's so many theories about that. I have a feeling it's about handedness. It could also be about shoulder girdle instability. When the shoulders are not strong, then the distal fingers, the fingers are not strong often.
And could we have primitive reflexes, baby reflexes also influencing?
Absolutely, very important in all of that. However, these will take time to develop, but if a child has developed a strange grip, at least they're moving the fingers in the strange grip. So as long as the fingers are moving, this is ideal, but as long as the fingers are moving,
we are still having movement.
We're still having movement, yes. Remember what I said to you? It isn't always perfect movement, but it's movement. And
that's what keeps us excited. We've got to keep our kids moving.
And using these little digits.